Cmst, and today I want to talk to you about 6 different concepts that I've chosen out of my book to review about communication. And the 6 that I chose were nonverbal communication, verbal communication, listening, hearing, self-concept, and self-image. The first 2 that I want to tell you about are going to be verbal and nonverbal communication. What communication is, though, is it's a fundamental aspect of being a human. So basically, if you are all alone, just isolated away from everyone, no matter what, you can't not get away from communication because you could be talking to yourself, thinking to yourself in your head or out loud. So verbal and nonverbal communication, like I said, we reviewed it in chapter 1 and 4. And verbal communication is just communication through words. It can be written or oral. It lets people know about your ideas, opinions, values, anything like that. And it lets us transfer messages a lot more directly. While nonverbal communication is just going to be through facial expressions, gestures, and posture. I'll give you an example. So let's say you're a mom and you have a new infant, and the infant doesn't obviously know how to talk yet, so it can't give you verbal communication, but it can give you nonverbal communication. It can cry, and it'll know, oh, I'm hungry, I'm sad, I'm tired, something like that, and then the mom will give it what it needs. So another example would be like, let's say a teacher scolds you, you're doing something bad. So if she came up and talked to you, though, about what you were doing bad, that would be considered verbal communication. Sometimes nonverbal communication can be taken the wrong way, though. So let's say your friend's talking to you about her day, and she just wants someone to be able to tell, and you cross your arms like this because you're tired or cold, but in all reality, she might think that you are just wanting the conversation to be over because you seem irritated or you just want to leave the conversation. So it's just things like that can be misinterpreted because 93% of our daily communication, we use nonverbal communication. The next 2 that I really want to talk about are listening and hearing. So listening and hearing are completely different. We went over this in chapter 5. 90% of our day is communication, while the other 55 is listening. And that's a huge gap between talking and having people listening. Or you listening. Listening teaches us to speak, and it develops relationships. So basically, if you want friends, you should probably listen. Researchers say that married couples who listen to each other stay together a lot longer than the people in relationships that do not listen. Some people don't pick up on your nonverbal or verbal cues, and this means that they might just be hearing. And hearing, like I said, is different. So hearing is just receiving sound waves or vibrations through your ear. So basically like background noise. Like right now, like I can hear cars or anything out the window, and I'm just not paying attention to it. I can hear it, but I'm just not giving it any thought right now. But like I said, listening is different than that because listening is hearing a sound and understanding it. So let's use the baby example again. So let's say you hear a baby crying in a restaurant and you don't put any attention to it. But if you hear a baby crying in a restaurant and you're the mom or the family member there with it, you will pay attention to it. You'll understand. You'll try and figure out what it wants, what it needs, just to make the baby happy. Like I said, listening requires a lot of concentration so your brain can process it. It's actually a skill to be able to listen. It involves 5 different activities just to be able to listen: selecting, attending, understanding, remembering, and responding. So selecting would be selecting what you hear. So whatever you select from what I'm saying is something that you're listening to, not just hearing. Let's say you're attending the next one. So that means that you're like present, you're here, you're watching, you're listening to me, not on your phone scrolling through, because I would just be background noise then. The next one would be understanding. So if you're understanding what I'm saying, if anything is coming through to you and it's sticking to you. And then there's also remembering. So if you remember anything that I was talking about earlier about nonverbal communication or verbal communication, and the last one would be responding. So how you feel about my video or how you feel about how I did, just things like that. So the next 2 that I really want to do are self-concept and self-image. We went over this in chapter 2. So what self-concept is it's an interior identity or a subjective description of who you think you are, not what someone else thinks. That's completely different. This remains stable just basically throughout your whole life. It's kind of like rooted down to you, and it can change, but it's not going to change too much. And people mix this up with self-image a lot, when self-image is just the view of yourself in particular situations. So, for example, let's say that you were talking to someone of authority. You're going to be a lot more nervous, and you're going to be a lot more like, yes, sir, I will do that. But let's say you're talking to someone that is your age or at your school, and you're just you're going to feel more comfortable around them. You're going to goof around with them more. You're going to not be so serious with them. Your self-image changes. So every situation that you're in, let's say you're at home and you're being lazy and you're just like chilling and you're not doing anything besides laying down and just eating or something like that. And let's say you're at school and you're in class and you are obviously have the student act on. You're being studious. You're not being lazy. You're doing your work. Self-concept, like I said, it's really rooted to you. It doesn't really change no matter where you move, or you can change yourself. It doesn't really change at all. The three things that are stuck with this are your attitude, your beliefs, and your value. And your attitude is the one that's going to change the most. And what I mean by that is it's things that you like or you dislike. So let's say you grow up and you don't like broccoli, and then you get older and you're like, wow, I really, really like broccoli. Things like that. And there's also belief. Like I said, it's going to be like true or false. Your beliefs pretty much stay the same. Like, oh, do my parents love me? I really hope they do. But obviously, you're going to be like, oh yeah, my parents love me. I know that they love me. The last one I wanted to tell you about was your value. And that means the good or bad. I value truth or honesty, or I value people who work hard and don't slack off. Just things like that. That's what shapes your self-concept. And when you're born, a lot of how you're shaped is when your parents find out what gender you are, because straight from the get-go, you're stereotyped into a boy or a girl. So if you're born a girl, they associate pink and blue and stuff like that. But it's you are automatically known to dress up, or you're going to get Barbie dolls. And if you're a boy, you're going to get fun stuff to play outside with, and sports things, and you're going to get some fun slingshots and things like that. It's completely different because girls and boys are stereotyped into these two different areas, and that's basically how self-concept shapes you. So like I said, I just reviewed your verbal communication, nonverbal communication, listening, hearing, and then I also went over your self-concept and your self-image. Thank you for listening.